Welcome to another episode of Move Beyond Your Career Struggles and Setbacks. Our case study today is Stephen. Meet Stephen. He comes in with a 9 years of work experience, a very good track record holder in terms of his performance. Every appraisal that Stephen has been through, every performance appraisal, he's found that the feedback that he had received, regardless of the firm that he has been employed with, has been always good or excellent. But but despite the good feedback, a very good performance review, Stephen finds himself that he's not getting promoted in the past 3 years. And he now finds himself extremely confused as to what exactly is going wrong and where. What is it that's missing? So in the present day scenario, you will find Stephen with a confused look and a constant thinking, what exactly is missing that I have been working so hard and my reviews say so, my supervisors have no issues with me. However, I fail to see what exactly is wrong that I'm not being promoted, at least in the past 3 years. When I and Stephen went through the coaching assignment, one of the things when we did the deep dive sessions together and we figured out was Stephen's constant comparison with his colleagues. There were a lot of stories that came out when I posed Stephen with some very, very specific questions in regards to the past 3 to 4 years in which he was not promoted. So when these specific questions related to his particular case were posted to him, and I gave him an assignment to dig deep and understand and come up and peel the layers of his past, he had very specific 3 stories to narrate, out of which one of the stories actually had the real root cause why Stephen was not promoted in the past 3 years. But some of the patterns that we see in here from the stories that Stephen found of his own self was his constant peer group comparison. Stephen got into a habit of setting his own faulty assumptions and some standards, and there was a personal issue that led him to feel a bit inferior. Something of that was rooted into his past, which eventually led Stephen to constantly compare himself not just to his colleagues but also to other people in different various other verticals. Now, this comparison brought Stephen more harm and stress than any good because he would have his faulty standards, and every time he compared himself to his colleagues with those standards, he found that he stand nowhere before them, which then dipped his confidence, his self-worth, and self-esteem, which then resulted in his own behavior and performance at work. So overall, generally, he would meet all his goals, but there were few subtle areas where he always was found to be someone with a scope of improvement. And this was not because he was not skilled or didn't have that ability. It was just his own internal low self-worth and inferiority complex that was reflecting in his working style, his constant need to appease people, compare himself with his colleagues, feel inferior, and think, how can he rise to that level which he only dream of? Our coaching assignment lasted for 2 months. And here I use the VBE method. VBE stands for values, blind spots, and external self-awareness. So our overall theme of our coaching assignment was comprising of these 3 main key concepts. Values. I helped Stephen figure out and learn what's really important to him in his life. What are the values he holds? And out of the several values, what exactly he kind of was exercising? Where was the area where he was out of sync with his own values? And what exactly was the cause of it? Then I explained and taught Stephen his blind spots. Actually, there are no specific tools as such which can capture or diagnose your blind spots. But there are some Socratic questioning methods often used by coaches like us who would specifically to the case and narration of Stephen would ask him questions and bring a new awareness to Stephen from his own self. So he took an inward journey, and the stories he came up with, the questions, the answers, the responses he gave, basis on that, the patterns he could connect, each arising from every story that he narrated, gave Stephen his own blind spots. Finally, I helped Stephen learn to understand how and what exactly is external self-awareness. We all know that self-awareness is being aware of our own self. But one of the concepts within self-awareness is external self-awareness, which means how we come across to people is not exactly what we know about. So sometimes we may think, okay, I am self-aware, I am well aware of how I look, the way I talk, or my own inner world. But there is one area which is very, very closely related to the blind spots, where how we come across to people, how people are perceiving us, and how our body language, our behaviors are giving a picture of us. We may be completely blind to that. So some of the concepts that Stephen learned along with me in our coaching assignment was to understand how he was coming across to some of his supervisors where his work had no flaws, yet he was never put up for a promotion because he failed to demonstrate any leadership traits or any of the competence area which may put him under a category of somebody performing at the next level. Having learned these three concepts, Stephen then was able to find and create a plan with the next steps ahead. He was no longer confused. He understood where exactly what was going wrong. And then he set some timelines basis on which he planned to work so that he does not miss out on his promotion the coming appraisal cycle.